for portfolio management is 5%. Okay, it involves 4 readings. I would say that I would rate this particular topic as a easy topic. Okay, and because you will not have very difficult concepts. However, like there are some concepts like Markovich portfolio theory, etc., which may feel you may feel difficulty over there. But I would say that the type of questions that is being asked in the examination, and also the overall depthness of this curriculum as compared to other areas, it is much lesser. So if you compare portfolio management with derivatives, okay, derivatives weightage is 5%, but maybe the amount of effort you have to put in derivatives will be roughly double of what you have in portfolio management. So my advice to you is ensure that you have solved all the problems from the CFA curriculum. Okay, there are lots and lots of problem in the CFA book, and what my homework assignments also. Okay, so if you see there are around 120 questions for this portfolio management in the CFA book overall, and very good high quality questions are there. Okay, okay. Yes, I could not send because of the whenever like I will be sending it to tonight. Okay, now in this particular what you have is we have to understand about the portfolio approach to investment. So okay, what is a portfolio approach? Okay, so please note that here they have asked us to give like a portfolio approach to investing. Okay, so first of all, what is a portfolio? A portfolio is a collection of assets or securities. Okay, so whenever you have 2 or 3 assets, okay, if you combine them, it becomes a portfolio. Okay, now if you see I remember like we saw in quantitative that let's say you have an asset A. Okay, this asset A standard deviation is 25%, assuming. Okay, and you include one more asset B in the portfolio. Let's say the standard deviation of asset B is also 25%. Okay, what can be said about the total standard deviation of the portfolio? Okay, it will, if the correlation between A and B is lesser than 1, what you will find is that the standard deviation of the portfolio will be less than 25%. Okay, so the standard deviation of the portfolio will be lesser than 25%, which is this 25%, 25% individually. So what happens is, if you include more and more stocks in the number in your portfolio, the standard deviation it decreases. So one single stock is much riskier than a 2 stock. Okay, and 2 stock is riskier than 3 stocks. So what you have is you achieve diversification benefit, or you achieve diversification when you include stocks in your portfolio. As you increase the number of stocks, you get more more benefit, or you get decrease in the standard deviation of the portfolio. However, this decrease, okay, in the standard deviation, it is not constant. Okay, when you have when you have added one more asset, okay, from one stock portfolio you are going to 2 stock portfolio, that benefit is very high. Okay, if you are going to 3 stock portfolio, the benefit is still high. Okay, but what happens is this benefit is a diminishing function. Okay, so initial benefits are higher and later on the benefits are decreasing. So one of the way we can show this is, if you see this as the standard deviation of the portfolio, and on this axis you have number of stocks. Okay, so what you see is the risk reduces like this. So initially you will have a very high diversification, but later on, like the benefit is becoming lesser and lesser as you increase the number of stocks. So after a certain point of time, maybe like around after 30 or 40 stocks, you will find that the diversification or the decrease in the standard deviation of the portfolio is not much happening. Okay, so diversification is a diminishing function. Okay, now let's say you have a portfolio. Okay, and a portfolio standard deviation, assume it's 30%. Okay, and you are considering to invest in a stock. Let's say the stock A standard deviation is 50%. Please note that, as I have told earlier, that we will consider risk means standard deviation. Standard deviation is a measure of risk. Okay, so we will be computing in the traditional finance, we'll be computing the risk we are considering from the perspective of standard deviation. Okay, now my quick question to you is, will you invest in stock A? So you have a portfolio of standard deviation 30%. Maybe your stock is made up of 5. Maybe your portfolio is made up of 5 stocks. Will you include one more stock and this stock standard deviation is 50%. Will it make sense to include this? Should you include, should you not? Right? It is not necessary that you will not include. It depends on the correlation. Okay, because if the correlation is very high, let's say if this stocks correlation is high with the existing portfolio, then you will not include. But let's say if the correlation of the existing portfolio and stock A is, let's say, minus 0.8, it might happen that if you include this this stock in the portfolio, the actual standard deviation may decrease. Okay, so what you have to consider is you should not look in a particular stock and say that okay, its standard deviation is higher than the portfolio, I should not include this in the portfolio. The decision to invest should be viewed from the perspective of portfolio. You think from the overall portfolio point of view and then take a decision whether to include the stock or not. Okay, now we will be seeing that if you consider some parameters like risk, how much is the portfolio risk, how much is the portfolio return, so risk and return of the individual assets, that is individual securities in the portfolio, and the correlation of these assets, you can create a portfolio which is a optimal portfolio. Okay, now optimal portfolio we will be seeing in the next class. On next Saturday we'll be seeing like how you will be arriving at this optimal portfolio. But as of now you can see that thing that okay, we have some combination of risk, return, and the correlation. Using that we can find out some combination, we can find out how much each weightage of the stocks will be there. Let's say there are 10 stocks A, B, C, D, like that. We have 10 stocks, or A1, A2, A3, like we have 10 stocks in the portfolio. You will have certain different weightages of these stocks, and you will create a portfolio which is optimal. Optimal means what happens is it has a kind of a proper combination of risk and return. Okay, it is not an easy task. It involves lots of mathematical work. Okay, and what we see is we will be going through one portfolio theory known as Markovitch portfolio theory. So Markovitch portfolio theory will help us in understanding what should be the weights assigned to these individual stocks, and we will be able to construct what is known as your optimal portfolio. Okay, is it clear? So optimal portfolio is some kind of risk versus return optimization that you will be doing to create a portfolio which has like a appropriate amount of risk and return. And note that you are also have to think from the investor's point of view. So what is the investor's point of view? Accordingly you will be investing. Okay, next is how do you find out how much diversification a portfolio has created. So there is a concept of diversification ratio. Please note that the LOS does not ask you to compute diversification ratio. Only an understanding of diversification ratio is required. Now what is a diversification ratio? It is a ratio of the standard deviation of the portfolio of equally weighted. So you have equally weighted portfolio. Okay, equally weighted means all the stocks, if there are A1, A2 and A10, all the stocks will have the same weight. So here each of them will have 10% of the weight in the portfolio. So if you have equally weighted portfolio, let's say the standard deviation of this is sigma p. Okay, and what you do is you select a random stock from A1 to A10. You select one stock randomly. Let's say you are selecting A9. Okay, you divide the portfolio standard deviation by standard deviation of the A9 stock. Okay, this ratio will give you that okay, the standard deviation of portfolio, typically we can say it will be lower than the standard deviation of A9. Typically, not necessarily it will be, but typically it can be lower. Okay, so what we can say is that the portfolio has achieved some diversification. Now the lower this diversification ratio means higher diversification you have achieved. Okay, because we want this standard deviation to be as low as possible compared to a randomly selected stock. So it is not like, because this is a random selection, it does not have much of mathematical foundation, but it is like okay, you are able to find out okay, one diversification benefit. Or another way you can compute is Okay, you will be finding out the standard deviation of the portfolio using the correlation formula that we saw, or over here you can take as the average standard deviation of the portfolio without considering the correlation, and then you can say, okay, how much diversification you are bringing. But the idea is not calculation, the idea is to understand that you can find out the portfolio standard deviation, and you can find out the risk of this portfolio, and you can see like how much benefit it is coming.